So I've been super excited to get my hands on these two phones, the iPhone 13 mini and the iPhone 13 Pro Max. Now, when you compare these phones with last year's iPhone 12s, there's not actually a long list of changes that Apple has made, but there are some very significant changes that I am super excited to try out, and we'll talk about those a little bit later. So I'm gonna unbox these phones, and this is gonna be a completely raw, honest first impressions because I've stayed away from all of the iPhone 13 content that I can. It's all over the place by now, and I have no script whatsoever in front of me, so this is just gonna be me reacting to these phones. Let's do it. So I went with Starlight for the iPhone 13 mini and the gold color in the iPhone 13 Pro Max. The reason I went with Starlight on the mini is because I was going to go with the new Sierra blue color for the Pro Max, but the Apple Store completely crapped out on me on pre-order day and I couldn't get in for like 20 to 25 minutes. And by the time I finally did, all of the Sierra blue models were sold out until like mid-October or something, so I had to go with the gold color. I'm gonna start with the smaller of the two. Let's open up the 13 mini first. Now, I love the first mini. It was one of my favorite phones purely because of the form factor. It was so comfortable, so small, so easy to hold, and I loved it. I loved absolutely everything about it. I ranted and raved about it for so long last year. And there it is. It's kind of a white color. I mean, they call it Starlight, so I mean, it's obviously going to be bright and white, but this is pretty much just white with just a little bit of a, almost like a beige tint to it. Let's pull it out. And it looks like they've gone with paper this time. No plastic, good for the environment, very nice. And first impressions, it seems just a slight bit heavier than last year. I used the 12 mini a lot for several months, so I know the weight of the mini inside and out, and this seems to be just a slight bit heavier, maybe a little bit thicker, but certainly still extremely small. It looks really good in this Starlight color. I actually kind of like the Starlight color almost more than the white. It's just a little bit of an off-white color that I really like. Let's turn it on. Hello! So the iPhone 13s right across the lineup, including the mini, have this reduced notch size. Now, I don't know if you guys can tell, but it actually does look like it's a little bit thicker, but it definitely is shorter. So, you know, it's a nice little change. I definitely prefer that they'd remove the notch altogether, but smaller is smaller. Progress is progress, I suppose. All right, so it's going to take a moment to activate. Let's look at what else we got in the box. Now, obviously, the first thing you probably notice is these boxes are quite slim, and that's because, just like last year, they did not include a charging brick in the box. But we do get some, let's see, we got a SIM card tool, we've got some documentation, a white Apple sticker, and we've got the USB-C to Lightning cable. That's it, nothing else in the box. So obviously the biggest visual change of the back of the mini is that camera bump. They've moved the camera from right over here to right over here in the corner. And you might just think that that's a aesthetic change just because they wanted to make it look different, and that might have some truth to it. But I also think it's because they've added the sensor shift technology from the iPhone 12 Pro Max. So there's quite a lot more going on behind these lenses here. So I think they might have had to shift that over just to be able to fit the two next to each other without having to make a overly huge camera bump. So yes, it is a bit of a minor aesthetic change, but I think it's probably a bit more technical than you might think at first. Now, in addition to making that notch about 20% smaller, Apple has also said that they've made this screen about 28% brighter, which is going to be fantastic when you're outside in direct sunlight. Now, it is still a 60 Hz screen, so I mean, it's like pretty much every other iPhone that has ever come out, aside from the new Pro models, which we'll talk about in a sec, because I'm super excited to test that out. But I mean, it's 60 Hz, it's fine. It's not going to be super fast and super fluid, but it'll be what you're used to. The 13 mini also comes with a spec bump. It's coming with the A15 Bionic CPU, which is a little faster than last year's A14, still one of the best CPUs in the mobile smartphone sector. Also, it comes with 128 gigabytes of storage, up from 64 from last year, which is great. So that's the iPhone 13 mini, the fun size phone. Now let's bring out the big boy, the iPhone 13 Pro Max. And already this phone is hefty. Now, like I said before, I got the gold model because I couldn't get the Sierra blue, but it's not that I think the gold model is gonna look bad or anything. I think it'll look pretty freaking good, but I really did want that Sierra blue, so I might have to return this later and get the Sierra blue when I can. Whoo, yeah. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. It's a lot less gold than I thought. It's actually more of a, like if I just put it next to the Starlight, and you can see that on the boxes as well, but if I put it next to the Starlight, The Starlight is only like slightly more white than the gold model. Obviously the gold stainless steel side, wow, that's obviously much more gold and shiny. But as for the back itself, yeah, it's gold, but it's like, it's white gold. It's very white gold. Again, like I said, you're only going to get a USB-C to Lightning charger in the box. If you need an actual charging brick, I highly recommend you pick one up from the sponsor of this video, Anker. This is Anker's Nano Pro charger. It's a 20-watt USB-C charging brick that is 50% smaller than the standard 20-watt Apple brick. The Nano Pro takes up barely any space in the bag, so it's perfect for travel, and it doesn't block any of the other outlets when it's plugged in either. It's so small that it's roughly the same size as the old 5-watt charger that used to come with iPhones, and it will charge your phone up to 3 times faster than this old one. It'll get you from dead to 50% in about 26 minutes. Even though it is tiny, Anker has packed their Active Shield safety system technology in there that provides continuous temperature monitoring and output control to keep your phone or your tablet or any other device that you want to charge protected. It also comes in a bunch of different colors like white, black, purple, and this blue color that I like a lot. It looks very similar to the new Sierra blue color of the iPhone 13 Pro models. I'm definitely going to be replacing a bunch of my old chargers with these. They're just so small and convenient to have around. If you're interested in them, I'll leave a link down in the description down below. Thanks to Anker for sponsoring this portion of the video. And now let's get back to the iPhones. So the iPhone 13 Pro Max is the phone that I've been most excited for, and that's for one very simple reason. I bet you can guess what it is. Apple has finally brought 120 hertz high refresh rate displays to the iPhone 13 Pros, and I could not be more excited about this because I've been using Android phones like the Z Flip, like the S21 Ultra, like the OnePlus 9 Pro, and all of them have 120 hertz displays, and it's been amazing. But Android has had this for a long time, and Apple is only just now catching up. And I'm so glad that they're finally jumping on the bandwagon, because 120 hertz on a phone like this is gonna be just chef's kiss. Oh man, it's so fluid. Oh, I love it. Look, I know Apple has had ProMotion on the iPads for the past 2 or 3 years, but having it on iOS in my hand just feels different, you know? I've had iPhones for the past, you know, what, 10 plus years now, and they've all been 60 hertz, and it's just so different seeing iOS in this form with 120 hertz. Now, one of the first things I noticed about this phone is how huge the camera bump is. Like, it is absolutely massive. I think it's like, let me see. Yeah, it's like half the width of an iPhone 13 mini. It's absolutely enormous. And the reason it's so big is because there's 3 brand new camera sensors in this phone this year. The wide and ultra wide cameras both have a wider aperture this year to let in more light. Now, interestingly enough, the telephoto doesn't. The telephoto actually went from an f2.4 to an f2.8, so I probably wouldn't recommend using that one in particular in low light, but it'll depend on the sensor, of course. I definitely want to try out the cameras in a more detailed camera review, so that'll be coming very soon. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. But one of the most interesting things that they've added this year is called cinematic video. Now, I mentioned that a little bit earlier. Basically what it is Apple will capture the video and add a little bit of background blur called bokeh that sort of simulates what a larger sensor camera would be able to produce naturally. Given the fact that most people are shooting video and uploading to things like Instagram or TikTok or things like that, it doesn't need to be all that convincing, because people are probably going to look at most of those videos on their phone. So on a small device like this, you're probably not going to be able to nitpick at the little tiny flaws that will be in that video. So I'm super excited to test that out. Another video-centric feature that Apple brought to the 13 series is ProRes video, or I should say will be bringing, because it's not actually available yet. It's coming later this fall, but what they're doing is allowing you to shoot in ProRes on these phones. I don't know if you're going to be able to tell much of a difference between the two, especially if you're looking at the video on your mobile phone. As for photos, the first thing you're going to see when you open up the camera on this thing is that you can choose from several different photographic styles, which is very interesting. There's standard, rich contrast, vibrant, warm, and cool. So you can choose what style photos you want to shoot. Now, I'm going to leave it on standard because I generally tend to like the iPhone's color science, so we're going to use standard, but if you like something else, go for it. So something I forgot to mention when we were talking about the iPhone 13 mini is that Apple has actually improved the battery life on all of these models. Now it's a big deal in the mini because last year's battery life on the mini wasn't that amazing. This year Apple says that you'll get about an hour and a half more with the 13 mini than last year's 12 mini, which is great. The Pro Max, though, they say you actually get 2.5 more hours with this year's 13 Pro Max versus last year's 12 Pro Max. So overall, like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, there aren't a crazy long list of changes that Apple have made to these devices. It's almost like it should have been an S year, like these should have been called the 12S models, but that probably would have been a crazy long name, iPhone 12S Pro Max. Either way, I'm super excited to test these phones out a lot more. The Mini is such a comfortable, fun little phone to use, and the 12 Pro Max with the 120 Hz display and these new cameras are going to be super fun to test as well. So I've got lots more content coming on that very soon. I've also got this guy that I want to unbox right now, so I'm going to cut this video short and say thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.